Hello everybody, today I'm going to be showing you how to make the ultimate caramel cupcakes. Now these cupcakes have been receiving lots of compliments. They are to die for. Now, I'm going to be using a box cake mix. Yes, you heard that right, a box cake mix, but with a twist. I am not going to be following any of the instructions or ingredients on the back. I'm going to show you how to make a box cake mix really yummy. So first of all, we're going to be making vanilla cupcakes. We're going to need a box of vanilla cake mix and instant pudding. Of course, I'm going to use vanilla instant pudding, but if you're doing a chocolate cake, you could use chocolate instant pudding. Then you're going to need half a cup of water and your oil. I added in 1/3 of a cup of oil, and now I've grabbed my eggs. You're going to need 4 eggs. But you're going to have to separate them, the egg whites from the egg yolks. Into this batter, we're going to be adding only the egg yolks. Then we're going to blend that together using an electric mixer with a whisk attachment. You'll find a list of all the ingredients and the amounts in the description below. And while you're there, please don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss another one of my videos. And don't forget to hit that notification bell. Now while that batter is all blending up, we're going to be grabbing our egg whites and blending them up at the same time, in a separate bowl of course. We're going to blend them up until we have a soft peak, so it'll take a few minutes. I'm using my hand mixer for this because I have 2 blenders, but if you don't have 2 blenders, you can just mix them up one at a time. A soft peak is when your egg whites forms a peak, but it's still soft and bendable, but it holds its shape. That's when you know you have a soft peak. Now we're going to mix in our sour cream. 1 cup of sour cream into the mix, if it wants to go, of course. We better grab a scraper and help scrape it in. Then we turn our electric mixer back on and continue blending for a few more minutes. Now that your egg whites and your sour cream have been blended well together, and your other batter has been mixing for quite some time now, probably at least 10 minutes, we're going to combine them both together to form one lovely, delicious cake batter. Add in your egg white mixture just a little bit at a time. But before we go any further, we're going to switch over from a whisk attachment to a paddle attachment. This way we can remove any major air bubbles from our cupcakes before we put them into the trays. Major air bubbles can make your cakes kind of collapse. You've ever noticed at the top of your cupcakes can collapse sometimes, but they're really crumbly, but still soft but crumble too much. Well, removing most of the major air bubbles will stop that. And this cake mix will still make your cakes really yummy, really fluffy and soft, but not crumble, which is just what we want. So I highly recommend mixing any of the cake batters that you do with the paddle attachment for at least 5-10 minutes before you go putting them into your cake tray or your cupcake trays. Now we're going to continue to mix in the egg white mixture into the rest of the batter until it is silky and smooth and well combined. Now my mixture here has been mixing for probably about 10 minutes. I went and had a cup of coffee while I was waiting. Oh, I forgot to mention, when you mix it with a paddle attachment, mix it on the lowest speed possible for those 5-10 minutes. Alright, now that our batter is ready, we're going to be getting our trays ready with our liners. Now this batter makes 24 cupcakes. And I just use plain white liners, but you can grab any liners you want from your local shopping centre and pretty them up with maybe some green or yellow or red ones. And here we want to fill up our cupcake liners only half to 3/4 full. You do not want to fill them up any more than that, or you'll find that your batter overflows and you end up making a big mess all over your tray and all over your oven, and we don't want that. We want some nice looking cupcakes. Now I'm going to put these cupcakes into an oven, and I'm going to put them in at 160 degrees preheated fan force. That's 160 degrees Celsius. Now, Do not open your oven too early. You'll find that your cupcakes will sink in the middle if you do. Wait till they're cooked at least 3/4 through before you test them. And to test if they're ready, you can put a skewer or a toothpick into the center of your cupcakes. If they come out clean, they're good. And you can also press the top of your cupcakes and make sure that they bounce back and they don't stay sunken in. That way you will know that your cupcakes are ready. Now here's a little trick. The minute you pull your cupcakes out of the oven, take the cupcakes straight out of the pan and put them onto a cooling rack. Because if you leave your cupcakes cooling in the cupcake trays, they will continue to cook from the heat of the pan, and then you'll find your cupcakes can end up a little bit harder than you'd like. So I like to pull them straight out of the pan and put them onto a cooling rack the minute they come out of the oven. Now, while your cupcakes are cooling, time to make the caramel filling. To make the filling, I used caramel in a can. Yes, that's right, caramel in a can. And then I'm going to turn it into my own flavour so it's not so overly sweet and it's not so thick, but yet still nice and gooey and great for a centre in a cupcake. Now, if you don't have caramel in a can where you are from, I have made a salted caramel sauce, and I'll put a link in the description for you of how to make that. Now adding in half the can into your saucepan, mix that over a high heat using a wooden spoon. Now I'm mixing constantly, only stopping occasionally, checking if it's boiling, swishing it around and then stirring again. Now once that has melted quite a bit and your caramel has turned into sauce consistency and is simmering away, we're going to pull that off the heat and add in our milk. Make sure your milk is cold and straight from the fridge. Now adding in 1/4 cup of milk, blend that well together and put that back on the heat and turn the heat down. I turned the heat from a 6, which is our highest, down to a 4. Stirring continuously and blending that well together, only for a couple more minutes. Now I'm going to be adding in the cornflour. So grab yourself a glass or a bowl with about a teaspoon of water and then add in 1/2 tablespoon of your cornflour. Now if you find that you can't mix that well together, add in a dribble more water. Now blend that up until you end up with a cornflour paste, and then we're going to tip that straight into our caramel sauce. The cornflour will help to thicken up your sauce and turn it into a yummy filling to put inside your cupcakes. Now we've added the cornflour, we're going to put it back on top of the heat, stirring again, and this time turning the temperature down to 2. That way we have a low heat and we're going to give our sauce a little bit of time to thicken up while we continue to stir it. Now just in case that your sauce has started to crystallize just a little bit, we're now going to strain it. I've just grabbed myself a little bowl and a strainer, and I'm tipping my sauce through the strainer and then back into the saucepan. Then we're going to continue to mix that over the low heat. Now your filling is almost ready. Take the saucepan off the heat and tip it into another dish. I'm just using a glass here. Your caramel filling is not quite ready. Do you know why? Because it's a little too hot still. So now, instead of just leaving it on a counter and giving it quite some time to cool down, I chucked mine in the freezer for about 10 minutes. Pulled it out about 5 minutes through, stirred it, and then put it back in for another 5. Then it was nice and cool and a wonderful consistency and had time to thicken up too. While my sauce was in the freezer, I decided to go and prepare my cupcakes. So what I did was I grabbed a large piping tip and then I twisted that in the top of each cupcake and pulled out the center. Now I've set that aside. My caramel is ready and I'm pouring it into a piping bag, cutting off the tip and putting it into the center of each cupcake. Now I found I didn't quite make enough caramel filling, so I ended up making a second batch. In the description I'll put in the recipe for 1 batch, but if you'd like to make 2, then just double the ingredients. Once you have filled all your cupcakes with caramel, we're going to grab the lids and we're going to cut them in half and place them back into the top of the cupcakes. We don't want to put them back in without cutting them in half, because then you'll end up overflowing all your caramel filling. If you're still here enjoying this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe and help me reach that 1,000 subscribers. And hit that notification bell so you never miss another one of my videos. Now that all the cupcakes are filled, we're going to be making the icing. To make the icing, it's only 3 ingredients. We're going to need powdered sugar and butter and a can of caramel. Now, I have used salted butter, but you can use any butter you like. Here, I just weighed out my powdered sugar and then measured out my butter. Then added all 3 ingredients into a large mixing bowl and then blended that up together. Now I highly recommend using butter that has been sitting out on your counter, so it's at room temperature. That way it's nice and soft and you can blend all your ingredients together and they can become soft and silky and smooth and ready to ice your cakes with. Once all your ingredients are blended well together, you will find that your icing is probably rather too thick. So I highly recommend just blending in a little bit of milk to help thin it up. If you end up adding in a little bit too much milk and it becomes too thin, then just add in a little bit more powdered sugar and vice versa. So between powdered sugar and milk, keep blending them in until you get the right consistency. And just like your cake batter, switching from a whisk attachment to a paddle attachment will make a large difference. Now, I like to use the paddle attachment on my icing for a good 10 minutes or more. Do not skimp on the time. This will help remove all the air bubbles from your icing, and that way when you go to pipe your icing onto your cupcakes, it doesn't end up looking all gritty and yucky. It ends up looking smooth and silky. And make sure that you're mixing it on low the whole time too. Once your icing is ready, grab yourself a large piping bag and a piping tip. I'm using a 1mm piping tip. Just put it into the end of the piping bag, cut off the excess plastic, and then you can wrap the bag over your least dominant hand and use your dominant hand to fill up your large piping bag with all your icing. Twist the end and then we're ready to pipe. Starting on the outside of the cupcake, pipe a ring all the way around the outside, slowly lifting and working your way all the way up to the top, and then release the pressure and pull up. Again, on the outside of the cupcake, we're going to swirl it all the way around, wrapping it 2 or 3 times around, releasing the icing from the top, and then just pulling up. Continue doing this until all your cupcakes have been iced. To decorate my cupcakes, I just grabbed some caramel chewy lollies. Now, after pulling them out of the packet, of course, we're going to cut each square up into 8 little pieces. Then place one of those little squares on top of each cupcake. Now for the final touch, I'm going to drizzle on some salted caramel sauce, just for that extra little wow factor. If you want to know how to make this salted caramel sauce, I will add a link to the video in the description below. Make sure you go check it out. It's rather yummy. And here we go. Oh my god, these cupcakes are delicious. The vanilla cupcakes are soft and fluffy. The caramel icing is just right. And that caramel filling, oh my god, it just ties it all together. It's so delicious. You must try this recipe. Check out this center. Oh, that gooey, yummy, delicious caramel. If you decide to try this recipe, please send me a photo. I would love to see it. I have a Facebook link to my Facebook group inside the description. I would love to have you come and join me over there. Now please don't forget to like and subscribe. And thanks for watching Yandinnas Yummies. Goodbye.